Hello, and this is the coin route analysis for Slide to any percent speedrun. This video touches upon the latest coin route optimizations overall. Video showcases multiple different route options for both loot and treasures in this game, because just collecting coins is not enough for completing this game as fast as possible. So let's start off with the basics. You need at least 1200 coins for the run. This money is spent on two gadgets that you have to buy in order to complete this game, and these are Paraglide, or Paraglider in the common sense, and Alarm Clock. With an optimal coin route that doesn't lose time to getting coins, you can collect over 700 coins until the point when you have to buy the second of these must-buy gadgets, the Alarm Clock, before episode 7 operation. But 700 coins, or a bit more than 700 coins, is not enough, since we need 1200 minimum. So in order to reach this, we have to collect treasures. We also could collect loot from guards, but that overall is clearly slower than collecting treasures, unless you loot during autoscroller section, and there are 3 of these during the entire run. Aside from Paraglider and Alarm Clock, there are additional gadgets that you can buy for the run that save time. There are several of this kind of gadgets, but most of them cost too much that getting enough treasures in order to buy them loses more time that those gadgets can save throughout the run. 3 most common examples of these are Turnbuckle Launch, Adrenaline Burst, and Stealth Slide. Turnbuckle for Murray, Adrenaline Burst for Bentley, and Stealth Slide for Sly. Stealth Slide is the hardest gadget of these 3 to determine how much it saves throughout the run, but the estimation is about a minute. The costs of Stealth Slide is 650 coins, and it is unlocked in episode 3. I personally can't see this gadget saving enough time in order to make buying it reasonable, since getting treasures to buy it already in episode 3 is clearly slower, because treasures in early game are very cheap compared to the late game, and getting it in late game for Stealth Slide isn't gonna save that much time anymore at that point. Adrenaline Burst, on the other hand, saves about 1 minute and 38 seconds throughout the run if it has been bought already at the start of episode 4. But it costs 1,000 coins, and basically if this is the only additional gadget you buy, it could save 10 seconds at the end. But a better alternative exists, and that is Turnbuckle Launch for Murray, which is estimated to save about 58 seconds in any percent run overall when bought before Battle the Chopper. This estimation varies a bit because the final split where it can save time is cycle dependent, and with optimal play it saves 15 seconds in that split, but you rarely actually play that optimally there, so the time save overall is less than 58 seconds. Getting 1 extra treasure for this particular gadget is worth it. Turnbuckle has commonly been part of the any percent route for a decent amount of time at this point, so the entire treasure route and comparisons between different treasures are done with the mindset that you always have Turnbuckle. Now let's go over to the loot section. So in this game you can loot guards as Sly and Sly only. An optimal loot where a guard with loot is on your way in a part of the game that isn't an autoscroller loses about 8.4 seconds on average if compared to Sly 3. A valid sample wasn't timed for Sly 2, only Sly 3, but these numbers are very comparable. Instead, looting in an autoscroller section where the game still progresses despite you looting a guard loses 2.3 seconds per loot because of the animation of Sly holding that loot which stops all cycles for 2.3 seconds of time. There are 3 opportunities like this in the game: in episode 1, in the job Follow Dimitri, in episode 4, in the job Operation Trojan Tank, and in episode 6, in a job A Friend in Need. In a Trojan Tank, this opportunity is achieved by a glitch called Tank Clip, where you clip the tank and proceed to farming coins without you having to be under the tank, while the tank keeps moving towards the prison gates anyways. In A Friend in Need, guard spawns are normal. In episode 4 Operation, there are no small guards that can spawn at that time. Looting in Follow Dimitri is not particularly well worth it, but is well worth it in A Friend in Need and episode 4 Operation, although you only need 1 loot with an optimal route. The ratios described here are the amount of average loot divided by the time loss, which is 2.3 seconds at this point. Same kind of ratio is used for the treasure sheet. So let's move over to the treasure sheet. Here are 15 treasures in the game. There are a total of 25 treasures in the game, and 15 of those are timed in this sheet. First grid is the episode, second is the name of the treasure, third is the price of the treasure, how many coins you get from that treasure, fourth is the time loss that getting that treasure in an 80% run with the fastest possible route for that particular treasure creates. Fifth one is the ratio that we just saw in the loot section that works similarly. And the final grid is the split where that treasure is taken back to the safe house. If there's an asterisk after the split name, then that means that getting that treasure optimally there requires job order changes from the route that we have used recently. Let's say for the past 7 months at least, from the start of 2018. The recently and commonly used treasure route that was considered optimal by this point took Burial Urn at the start of episode 2, or somewhere over there. It really doesn't matter. There are multiple different places where you can actually take that treasure. And Crystal Vase in episode 5 as Murray with Turnbuckle, doing the ghost capture split after completing Kidnapped General. Getting Crystal Vase that particular way lost about 27 seconds, but in this sheet you can see that Crystal Vase time loss is only 13 seconds. This 14-second time save comes from getting that treasure after completing Tank Showdown, taking the treasure and running back to the safe house instead after completing Kidnapped General. There are multiple treasures in this sheet that you can't get all of them every time by doing the same thing. For example, under Crystal Vase there is Jeweled Crown, and that is taken back to the same house the same way optimally as Crystal Vase after Tank Showdown, so you can't take them both, but they are both represented in this sheet in the most optimal way that you basically can take those treasures. Although this creates the high chance of not having Paraglider in Ghost Capture. Paraglider in Ghost Capture on itself doesn't actually save any time at all. Maybe 1 to 2 seconds, 2 seconds at max, unless you have to do the unoptimal route with the ghost that is on top of the castle roof. You could get on top of this roof much quicker with Paraglider than without it. Doing this saves 4 seconds with Paraglider. So overall we could say that, yeah, unoptimally you might lose 5 seconds in Ghost Capture if you don't have Paraglider there. But that number is less than 14 seconds, making this save time overall. So the Crystal Vase is clearly the most optimal treasure to get in the game. The time loss is smallest. The price is pretty good. The ratio is the best. But still, even though you would get that about 725 coins before you have to buy Alarm Clock, and 546 coins from Crystal Vase, you would still need a bit over 300 coins in order to get enough coins for all 3 gadgets that you want to purchase in an 80% run. Turnbuckle, paraglider and alarm clock, which in total cost 1600 coins. So you would basically have to get another treasure. And so far this has been Burial Urn. Let's go through some of these treasures before getting to some kind of conclusion. The old route used to get gold painting in episode 1 by not resetting the game after the final job of day 1, which was Bug Dimitri's office at the time. The time loss from this treasure varies based on your console reset times. For example,
if SSDs were banned, getting gold painting would be in the top 3 fastest treasures in the game, but that 24-second time loss listed in the sheet is an average. For a very fast PS3, it loses 25 seconds, and for a bit slower PS3 with SSD, for example mine, it loses only 23.
But still, that isn't the fastest treasure in episode 1. You could get the Jade Vase for 14 more coins with less time loss. After Follow Dimitri, instead of loading the game, jumping off from the light post, running to the Jade Vase and running back to the safe house. This is the second fastest treasure in the entire game, but on its own isn't enough, usually, to get that 1600 coins before you have to buy Alarm Clock. But getting even a 1 loot in either episode 4 Operation or in A Friend in Need basically makes this happen. This overall would be the fastest treasure route, but it would require 1 loot as well. I timed at least 1 treasure from every episode, although for episode 8 it's basically obsoleted by the fact that you don't need coins anymore at that point, and there's no gadget that can save 28 seconds plus at that point anymore, no matter the costs of it. Even a feral pounce or something like that doesn't make up for it. Episode 3 and 4 treasures are generally considered the slowest. Fastest treasure in episode 4 loses 45 seconds, even though a route designed particularly getting that treasure optimally with a changed job order doesn't get it below 45 seconds. Episode 5 has another very optimal treasure in Jeweled Crown, and we'll get to that later. Episode 6 has weird treasures with a average time loss, and episode 7 has quite optimal treasures with only about 20 seconds of time loss for both. And the 80% route without Turnbuckle would take Jade Decanter as the only treasure in the run. So here is a sheet for the different treasure routes. There's 10 in total here, and they all differ in some way from each other. The route 1 is the so-called current route that has been used so far, that gets 900 coins in treasures, doesn't require any loots, has a time loss of 53 seconds from the treasures, visits Thiefnet 3 times, gets the first treasure in episode 2, and the second treasure in episode 5 in Ghost Capture Split. There are handicaps and benefits listed for these particular routes. I recently did a no reset run for the route 6 listed over here. And by the way, the abbreviations here, KYE and GC, are Know Your Enemy and Ghost Capture, which are job names in episode 5. And in that test route I found out that the fastest treasure route actually is viable for full game runs, with certain asterisks. The route 10, listed at the bottom, is a route with no turnbuckle, so which basically loses the 55 seconds despite having the smallest time loss for treasures. So let's go through these routes. Route 2 takes loot in episode 4 Operation and has enough money to buy a paraglider right off the start from episode 5. There is a current belief going on that you can't buy a paraglider at the start of episode 5 because it progresses the cycles, but this is not the case. Thiefnet screen is same as a pause menu screen where all cycles stop, and since the cursor in the safe house is defaulted into Thiefnet at the start of episode 5, you can just quickly press circle from the start of episode 5 in Korean and sell the loot from episode 4 and buy paraglider instantaneously. Route 3 doesn't take loot in episode 4 Operation. Instead, it risks to get 600 coins already without a loot, which requires pretty darn good RNG. Routes 2, 3, 4, and 5 all take the first treasure in episode 2, and the routes 6, 7, 8 and 9 take the treasure in episode 1, the Jade Vase, instead of Burial Urn. Route 4 once again takes the loot in episode 4, but instead of getting Paraglider at the start of episode 5, it gets the Paraglider and Alarm Clock at the same time in Stealing Voices. This makes you have only 2 ThiefNet visits instead of 3. And the Route 5 doesn't take the Crystal Vase, and takes the Jeweled Crown instead. As Murray after Tank Showdown, that's why there's a pretty hefty coin amount for treasures. This is basically the same as Route 4, this requires no loot and you can still buy Paraglider and Alarm Clock at the same time. So you can basically see that the fastest route which gets Burial Urn in episode 2 is the route number 4. But basically it isn't if you can get Paraglider from the start of episode 5. This makes the fast cycle in Know Your Enemy basically free, and all nice and quick backups in Ghost Capture possible as well. This means that Route 3 would be the most optimal, but unrealistic since it's pretty rare to get 600 for the start of episode 5. So Route 2 is basically the most realistic option for getting Burial Urn, since taking loot in episode 4 operation basically guarantees, with a optimal go in your route, that you can get Paraglider for the start of episode 5. But then there's the Jade Vase route, and from the time loss in treasure section you can see that there are 2 much faster routes. Route 6 has to take a loot in episode 4 operation, and is clearly faster than any of the Burial Urn routes. Of course you don't have Paraglider at the start of episode 5, but that's not gonna lose 7 seconds. Or then you can get 2 loots in episode 4 operation and have enough coins to buy Paraglider from the start of episode 5, even though you took the treasure in episode 1. Then there's Route 8 that takes the Jeweled Crown over the Crystal Vase, because you didn't get loot in episode 4 operation. This is basically the backup route for Route 6 and 7, and is basically as fast as the Burial Urn routes. So what gives? You can have a possibility for an even faster treasure route, and okay, you didn't get loot in episode 4 operation, you have bad coin RNG throughout the run. No matter, you had a chance to save even more time, but now you'll just break even with the Burial Urn route. This makes the Jade Vase route better overall, in my opinion, in every scenario. Route 9 takes loot in episode 4 operation and the Jeweled Crown treasure to have only 2 ThiefNet visits, but this particularly doesn't save that much time, to be honest, because the ThiefNet visits in episode 7 to buy Alarm Clock wastes only about 3 to 4 seconds. So now that we've gone through the loot and treasure route, we can actually check out the coin route. So I have a big sheet here where I've listed the amount of coins I've gotten during a certain period of time in a full game 80% run from the last 6 runs I've done so far. And they all have basically the same strats for getting coins, with minor differences, but it averages out basically. Having 6 runs is a pretty decent sample in my opinion. So these runs are in the order that they were completed. There's the first run 50927, second is 50809, third is PB 50547, fourth is 50936, fifth is 50807, and the final one is the no reset run with the new treasure route. Then there's the average from all runs and the main source of coins listed, but this varies a lot, but we'll get to that. The grids listed in blue are the main coin farming splits in the run, and they have their own grids for just that one mission, but otherwise there are multiple missions listed with the same coin amount, simply because you basically get no coins at all during certain splits. So let's go through it. First up, it's Cairo to block Dimitri's office. Basically every coin here is from breaking and entering, mostly from the fight with guards, which is the rat fight. Coins you get here are pretty standard, about 24 on average. Then there's Follow Dimitri, which is the biggest coin farming opportunity in the run. You can see that the no reset run got below average amount of coins in Follow Dimitri. You should absolutely get more than 115 coins there, which is the average listed here. My personal best is 132 coins from that job. Since this is such an important job in the run, we'll go through that best roll from these runs, the 124 coin roll, and analyze it a bit. So during the 2 minutes of time that you have to trail Dimitri, with an optimal route you can break almost 40 items in total in this job. So we all know if you get too far away from Dimitri you will fail the job. So this route was the result of persistent attempts that went through a lot of job fail screens. And the main reason what makes this route to work is the consistency with your movement. If it's the same every time, you of course won't fail the job because you're keeping the same pace when trailing Dimitri. In this particular example, a bit unfortunate thing happened that you actually don't wish to happen is that guards spawned on your way, which made you to not do the intended route designed for this. Instead you have to leave some of the items unbroken and instead take some junks from the guards. Of course that gives you money as well, but not that much in this scenario, although this ended up being the job with the most coins from these 6 runs. After the job has been completed, with the optimal route you would go and take the Jade Vase, but we have already seen samples of this. One benefit with the Jade Vase route is that you can have more optimal movement as well with Murray, since running back to the safe house makes the tree besides the safe house not spawn at all. Next up in a coin route sheet are listed the Murray jobs in episode 1. You can scatter around some coins from random broken items in these shops that averages out to about 10 coins in total. Not anything more precise to talk about in those shops. Next up is Moonlight Rendezvous, which is the second greatest coin farming mission in the run, right after the main one basically. With an optimal farming route you can get over 80 coins in this shop. I averaged this out to 83 coins during my attempts. Let's go watch the clip from the 50809 run, which gathered a total of 87 coins from this job. So the main thing here is of course to keep close enough distance to Neela so she won't stop. I think in this clip she does stop because I go too greedy for coins at some point, but that is a thing worth noting and worth learning from. A guard spawns on my way. In this clip I stealth slam this guard, but there's a high chance that Neela will stop being so far. Right there I went for the table and that ended up her to stop. You can only go for one of those two, either the guard or the table, and in this case the table is the more safe bet. Here you can actually drop down from the roof to break these 3 items much quicker than in this clip, just to mention a little thing. Here I actually missed almost every one of the coins from the 2 objects that usually give a lot of coins. The method of being ahead of Neela early here is to walk near the edge of this roof. This allows you to break both of the plants and the suitcases later, before Neela does. Next up is the first pickpocketing job of the run. There are several of these, either RNG based or scripted. Coins you get in theater pickpocketing are very consistent, and they average out to about 53 coins from these runs. In the following 3 jobs, you basically get no coins in Disco Demolitions and Recon Ballroom. Basically all these coins are from episode 1 operation, and they can come from several sources. The scripted loot of the guard, the bench you break to lure the rats, and main importantly, the rat fight itself. Here we can see that the most coins I got from the rat fight were 44, and the least was 30 from the test run with the new coin route. This was because I didn't go for the coins at all here, just focused on killing the rats like in episode 1. This of course made me to get less coins in that section here, which kinda means that this test run after episode 1 was slightly below the average coin count that I usually have had. In Lower the Drawbridge, which is another pickpocketing job, the coin chunks of all the guards are scripted. You always get 48 coins from this job. Next up are several different splits. Steal a Tuxedo, Dominate the Dance Floor, and Elephant Rampage are all that kind of split where you can get random coins from random broken items, mostly from Steal a Tuxedo. Once again, I got the most coins in my test run because I actually went for it and swing my cane a lot in Steal a Tuxedo, which made me to get a few extra coins there. But despite this, didn't lose any time. Boardroom Brawl is another split with an extensive fight with guards. You can get some coins from broken items here as well, but most of them come from the guards. This is, by hindsight, the most inconsistent part of the coin route, where you can see I got only 33 coins there in my test run, and whopping 105 coins in the run that happened before that. The coin drops from the guards in this shop isn't normal in any way. After Boardroom Brawl you get basically no coins at all until Nila's Secret, the next auto-scroller chase. In the previous runs before this test run, I averaged this section out to about 6 coins, but in the recent run I got 15, and that is a bit inaccurate number since I died in Spice Grinder after getting some coins. But in Nila's Secret, the number is pretty great. I averaged to about 50 coins in this job and topped in the test run with the bit of a modified route, which I'll show up here next. You also get some scripted pickpockets in this job from 2 guards, always worth 13 coins. So start off the route by climbing up this vine and breaking this little rock over here. There might be guards spawning on your way that Nila will kill, and they will usually drop more coins. But usually going for the items is a safe bet, more safe bet I would say. After this barrel, you jump on the right because Nila didn't kill any guards, but when I saw that she actually killed the guard, I went to get his coins. Break even more object, break that object on the corner, which is kind of a hidden to be honest. Most of the rocks in this area that drop coins are kind of hidden because you can't see them because they've been disguised into their surroundings. And right after that, Nila does stop, but that's not losing time for coins, that was just a weird input drop basically. You follow Nila until this corner and get another disguised rock over here. Then instead of getting the rock on the far left, you jump or either climb up earlier to break more objects. After crossing the bridge, you can just hope that some guards might spawn on your way that drop coins, but that didn't happen here. After Nila's Secret, you once again basically don't get any coins until Big House Brawl in the later part of episode 4. Basically all coins from this section of the game are either from episode 3 Operation, Fight with Guards, as Murray, and from Code Capture, where you might be able to break some objects for free when the guards are about to walk to their alarm terminals. Big House Brawl is the next big coin farming job, you can see that in the first couple of runs I made well past 70 coins in that job, but in the most recent attempts way less than that, averaging to about 60 coins, where the average of the entire 6 runs is 66 coins. This was because of a bit of a changed tactic in the job, by adjusting my movement with Murray less to get coins, because you still get anyways a pretty hefty amount of coins in that job, even without adjusting your movement in the way that would lose time. After Big House Brawl there's the Sky Bridge with the new fake floor strats, which does lose a lot of coins from the run, but we do have enough coins in the run anyways. You basically only kill one guard in the job, which drops some amount of coins. In the test run, this actually lost me time, because there was a hull drop, which I accidentally took from that guard. Next up is episode 4 Operation, where you can clip the tank and farm coins, and possibly get a loot during any auto-scroller section. The runs that did manage to pull off loot here have a bold coin count amount shown, and this amount excludes the actual worth of the loot. That is listed in another line below. You do get more random coins inside the prison, either from killed wolves and broken tables and chairs during the Murray chase. So the average from these 6 runs when entering episode 5 has been a total of 606 coins. After that we can have an interesting comparison with the Know Your Enemy Until Mojo Trap Action sample. In most of the runs I seem to get no coins at all during this section of the game, but the runs that did go for coins in Mojo Trap Action can be shown pretty easily with the 10 and 12 coin samples. Getting coins for free from broken items in Mojo Trap Action gives you about 10 coins. Next up is the final pickpocketing job before you have to buy alarm clock, stealing voices. From this shit you can see that in the first 5 runs listed, the coin amount gotten has been pretty standard, but did rise up a bit in the test run, and this was due to a bit of a modified coin strat, which is shown right here. So after exiting the area that has the episode 5 vault, you pickpocket this first guard, and no matter how many chunks he has, RNG based, you don't kill him, you run away from him and break the 2 chairs here in the left. Because you run away from the guard, it doesn't matter that he had an extra chunk, you can still make your way to the second guard without losing time. The coin route after this is a big piece of pie. A lot of multiple ways to get coins, so let's go through them all. In Tank Showdown, you can get random coins, wolves drop coins, items drop coins, and the tanks you destroy drop coins. Episode 5 Operation has the Mila Chase, where you can break some random gravestones, benches, and chairs. First job of episode 6 Cabin Crimes, you can pick up some free coins on your way out from the second cabin. A Friend in Need is an auto-scroller section. If you don't do the loot strats, you can break a lot of items and kill guards in this job, and during the auto-scrolling section, you can also loot a guard. This is especially worth it if you didn't manage to loot a guard in episode 4 Operation, although you can render this strat useless by using the backup treasure route, which takes the jeweled crown instead of crystal vase in episode 5. Right, the Iron Horse has the infamous rock. The early part of episode 7 doesn't include any coins, and the last opportunity to get coins before you have to buy alarm clock is Old Grizzleface. You can easily get 25 coins in this job without losing any time. So the total from Tank Showdown until Old Grizzleface from these runs has varied a bit. The least amount of coins is 29 from PB, and the greatest amount is 84 from the test run. The difference here is that in the PB I didn't go for coins at all after getting 600 in stealing voices, And the test attempt went for a lot of coins, basically every coin possible without losing time intentionally. The average coin amount from all these 6 runs averages out to 803 coins, which is over 100 coins more than you would need with the current treasure route, and just a bit less than you would need with the new route. So in a nutshell, what at least I'm gonna do is to implement Jadeways into the 80% route permanently and ditch Burial Urn completely. And in the situation that I do not manage to get loot, or just to encounter very poor coin RNG in general, I just might take the Jeweled Crown instead of Crystal Vase in episode 5, because even if you would take it instead of the Crystal Vase, it would still break even with the Burial Urn route. So you can go for the bigger time save, or then just end up breaking even with the fastest Burial Urn route and not risk it for not getting loot in a friend in need, which otherwise would still be faster but pretty risky, because at least I am going for the lure strats. So I guess that's all for today. Let this sink in and value these different options that I've presented to you and decide what route you are going to take.